The unexpected or EPYEZ and TTIVs. Dr. Maya Singh stared at the official summons on her tablet for the fifth time that hour. The holographic seal of Earth's unified government pulsed gently at the top of the document, as if mocking her disbelief. "This has to be a mistake," she muttered to herself in the quiet of her cluttered apartment. At 42, Maya was a brilliant theoretical physicist whose unconventional theories had earned her more ridicule than respect. Her last position at Berkeley had ended when she'd insisted on pursuing research that her department head had called the scientific equivalent of a wild goose chase. The summons was clear. She had been selected to represent Earth at the Galactic Confluence, a prestigious assembly of the most advanced civilizations in the known universe. The document claimed she possessed unique cognitive patterns essential to humanity's representation, whatever that meant. A sharp knock at her door startled her. Outside stood three strangers and a government official in a crisp uniform. "Dr. Singh, your transport leaves in 3 hours. These are your fellow representatives." The official gestured to the others, a lanky man with oil-stained hands who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, a woman with vibrant blue hair and more piercings than Maya could count, and an older gentleman with military posture but gentle eyes. "I'm Carlos Reyes," the oil-stained man said with a slight Mexican accent. "Apparently I fix starships now instead of motorcycles." "Zhou Chen," the blue-haired woman offered. "Hacker, troublemaker, general disappointment to my parents." "Retired Colonel Benjamin Washington," the older man said with a nod. "Though I haven't the faintest idea why I'm here." "That makes 4 of us," Maya replied, inviting them in. The official remained at the door. "The Ardorian vessel awaits in orbit. Packed lightly. All will be explained during transit." 6 hours later, Earth had shrunk to a blue marble behind them as they approached an iridescent ship that seemed to shimmer between states of matter. Inside, their Ardorian liaison, a tall, elegant being with silver skin and 4 arms, greeted them with what passed for a smile among its kind. "I am Veller, your guide to the confluence," it said, its voice melodic despite coming through a translation device. "You are the first humans ever invited. This is an honor beyond measure for your species." "Why us specifically?" Benjamin asked, his military directness evident. Veller's large, pupilless eyes blinked slowly. "The selection algorithm is infallible. It identifies optimal representatives from each species. There must be some mistake," Maya insisted. "I'm unemployed. My theories are considered fringe at best." "Carlos fixes motorcycles in a garage," Zoe added. "And I'm retired," Benjamin said. "I hack systems for fun and occasionally profit," Zoe finished with a shrug. Veller's skin rippled in what they would later learn was amusement. "The algorithm sees qualities beyond your limited social hierarchies. Rest now. We arrive at the confluence in 3 solar cycles." During those 3 days, they learned that the galactic confluence was a gathering of 37 spacefaring civilizations, occurring once every 50 Earth years. The Ardorians, as one of the founding species, served as hosts and mediators. "The confluence addresses threats to galactic stability," Veller explained during their orientation. "This cycle's concern is particularly grave." The ship's holographic display showed a spreading darkness between stars, a void that seemed to consume light itself. "The void phenomenon," Veller continued. "It has consumed 3 solar systems already. Our greatest minds have been unable to halt its expansion." "What exactly is it?" Maya asked, her scientific curiosity piqued. "Unknown. Some theorize a spatial anomaly. Others believe it may be an ancient weapon reactivated. The confluence will present findings and vote on solutions." When they finally arrived at the confluence station, a massive ring structure orbiting a binary star system, the humans were overwhelmed by the diversity of sentient life. Crystalline beings floated alongside tentacled giants. Creatures of pure energy contained in specialized suits conversed with insectoid hive mind representatives. Their quarters were modest but comfortable, adapted to human physiological needs. A schedule appeared on their room terminals, outlining sessions they were expected to attend. "Look at this," Zoe said, scrolling through the agenda. "We're listed as observational participants for most sessions. We don't even get to speak." "We're new kids on the block," Benjamin reasoned. "They're not going to give us the floor right away." Their first formal session confirmed Benjamin's assessment. In a vast chamber with representatives from all 37 civilizations, the humans were seated in a section clearly designated for less advanced species. The central platform was dominated by representatives from what they learned were the Elder Eight, the oldest and most technologically advanced civilizations, including the Ardorians. An Ardorian different from Velar, adorned with elaborate insignia, addressed the gathering. "The void phenomenon continues its expansion at an exponential rate. Projections indicate it will reach populated systems within 12 cycles. We will now hear research findings." For hours, representatives presented incomprehensible theoretical models and proposed solutions. The humans struggled to follow the highly technical discussions, their translation devices sometimes failing to find Earth equivalents for advanced concepts. During a recess, they gathered in their quarters to compare notes. "Did anyone understand even half of that?" Carlos asked, running a hand through his dark hair. "Some," Maya admitted, "but their approach seems oddly rigid. They're looking at the void as either a natural phenomenon or a weapon, nothing in between." "I noticed something else," Benjamin said quietly. "The Elder Eight are controlling the discussion. The other civilizations barely get to speak." "Typical," Zoe snorted. "Different galaxy, same politics." Their observations were interrupted by Velar's arrival. "You are requested at the observational laboratory. The void has accelerated its expansion." The laboratory was a massive dome with a 360-degree view of space. In the center, a holographic representation of the void filled the room, a roiling darkness spreading like spilled ink across stars. "It has consumed another system," announced a Meribian researcher, a being composed of what appeared to be living crystal. "Our models failed to predict this acceleration." As the gathered scientists debated, Maya found herself drawn to the raw data scrolling across auxiliary screens. Something about the expansion pattern nagged at her. "Excuse me," she said, raising her voice. The room fell silent, dozens of alien eyes turning to her, with expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain. "The human wishes to speak," the Meribian researcher said with evident surprise. "I'd like to see the full data set on the void's expansion," Maya requested. "That would be inappropriate," replied a tall, mantis-like being. "Your species lacks the scientific foundation to comprehend." "Let her access it," interrupted a gravelly voice. The source was a small, gray-skinned being with enormous eyes. "A Cataran, one of the Elder Eight. I am curious what the human perceives." With reluctant permission granted, Maya spent hours analyzing the data while her companions watched. The other representatives gradually lost interest and returned to their own discussions. "It's not random," she finally announced, looking up from her work. "The void isn't expanding naturally. It's responding to something." "Explain," demanded the Cataran. "The pattern is reactive, not progressive," Maya said, highlighting sections of data. "See these acceleration points. They coincide with your attempts to contain or study it. It's almost like an immune response." Carlos finished unexpectedly. When others looked at him, he shrugged. "I've seen engines do this, react to maintenance attempts by developing new problems. Like they're fighting back." The Meribian researcher's crystalline form flickered with what might have been derision. "You anthropomorphize a cosmic phenomenon. This is why primitive species—" "No, they may be correct," the Cataran interjected. "Continue your analysis, humans. The full data set will be made available to you." As they left the laboratory, Velar approached them. "You have attracted attention. This is unusual for a species at your development stage. Is that good or bad?" Zoe asked. Velar's skin rippled. "It is significant," Some will see it as presumptuous. Be cautious. The hierarchy here is ancient and deeply entrenched. That night, unable to sleep, Maya worked through the complete void dataset. By morning, she was convinced. It's alive, she told her companions over breakfast, or at least it's behaving like a living system. And I think it's responding to harm. You're saying all those containment attempts are making it worse? Benjamin asked. Maya nodded. Every energy weapon, every containment field they've deployed has only accelerated its growth. It's defending itself. So what do we do with this information? Carlos wondered. We need to present it carefully, Benjamin advised. We're already seen as upstarts. Unfortunately, careful presentation became impossible when they arrived at that day's session to find the confluence in an uproar. Overnight, the void had engulfed a small research outpost, causing the first casualties of the crisis. On the central platform, the Elder Eight were voting on a decisive military response, a concentrated energy attack from the combined fleets of all 37 civilizations. The motion carries, announced the Ardorian chairperson. Fleet deployment will commence immediately. Wait, Maya called out, rushing forward despite Veller's attempt to stop her. You can't attack it. You'll make it worse. The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to the human who had dared interrupt the proceedings. This is an outrage, hissed a serpentine representative. The primitive speaks out of turn. The Cateran, who had supported them earlier, raised a gnarled hand. Let us hear what conclusion the humans have reached. Given the floor, Maya explained her theory, with Carlos adding observations about reactive systems based on his mechanical experience. As they spoke, the skepticism in the room was palpable. When they finished, the Ardorian chairperson's skin had darkened to a stormy gray. You suggest we do nothing while this phenomenon devours worlds. Not nothing, Maya countered. Something different. If it's responding to perceived threats, then perhaps. Enough, the chairperson cut her off. The human theory is noted but lacks substantiation. The vote stands. Fleet deployment proceeds. As they were escorted back to their section, whispers followed them. What now? Zoe asked quietly. We need proof, Benjamin said. And quickly. They spent the rest of the day in desperate analysis, while reports came in of the massive fleet assembling. If Maya was right, the attack could catastrophically accelerate the void's growth, potentially endangering billions of lives across multiple systems. That evening, as the fleet prepared for its coordinated strike, Zoe made a discovery. I've been digging through the communication logs, she said, her fingers flying across her terminal. The first appearance of the void. It happened right after the Ardorians tested a new faster-than-light technology in that region. They created it, Carlos asked incredulously. Maybe not intentionally, Maya suggested, but that could explain why they've been so quick to push for military solutions. They're covering up their mistake. We need to stop that fleet, Benjamin said gravely. But how? We've already been ignored once. Zoe's eyes gleamed with mischief. I might have a way. The unconventional solution. This is either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever done, Carlos muttered as they hurried through the maintenance corridors of the Confluence station. Zoe had discovered, or rather, hacked, a map of the station's restricted areas. Both, probably, Zoe replied cheerfully, her tablet guiding them through the labyrinthine passages. The fleet launches its attack in 6 hours. We need to reach the central communications hub before then. And you're sure you can do this? Benjamin asked, keeping watch behind them. 70% sure, Zoe admitted. Their systems are advanced, but security logic is universal. Find the gap, exploit the gap. Maya clutched a data crystal containing their complete analysis. Even if we broadcast this, will anyone listen? The Elder Eight have made up their minds. Not targeting them, Zoe explained. We're going straight to the other 29 civilizations, bypass the hierarchy entirely. Their plan was audacious. Use the Confluence's own communication system, to broadcast their findings to all member species simultaneously, exposing both the nature of the void and the Ardorians' potential role in its creation. After navigating through increasingly restricted areas, they reached a sealed door marked with Ardorian symbols. Communications hub, Zoe confirmed. Now for the fun part. While she worked on bypassing the security, Benjamin kept watch, and Maya and Carlos finalized their presentation. Done, Zoe announced as the door slid open silently. Inside was an empty chamber filled with holographic interfaces and pulsing light patterns. No personnel, Benjamin questioned, scanning the room. Automated systems, Zoe explained. Most advanced civilizations minimize manual operations. She approached the central console. Maya, the data crystal. As Maya handed it over, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. That's not for us, Benjamin said, checking a nearby information terminal. The void, it's accelerated again. It's heading toward a populated system. They must have sent an advance probe, Maya realized. It's reacting already. More urgency for us, Zoe said, working faster. Uploading our data now. The systems were alien but followed logical patterns that Zoe could interpret. After tense minutes, she stepped back. It's ready. This will broadcast to every delegation simultaneously. No way for the Elder Eight to intercept. Do it, Benjamin ordered. Zoe activated the broadcast. Throughout the station, in every delegation's quarters and meeting room, the humans' analysis appeared, detailed data showing the void's reactive nature, its correlation with the Ardorian experiment, and most importantly, a proposed alternative solution. Instead of attacking it, Maya's recorded voice explained, "We need to communicate with it, send signals that aren't weapons, patterns that show intelligence and peaceful intent." The reaction was immediate. Their quarters door burst open, and Ardorian security personnel flooded in. "You have violated multiple protocols," Veller announced, entering behind the guards. "The consequences will be severe." "The consequences will be severe if you don't listen," Benjamin countered. "That fleet launches an attack, and the void will retaliate on a scale we haven't seen yet. The Cataran delegation is requesting your presence," one of the guards said to Veller, who seemed surprised. "Bring them," Veller ordered after a moment's hesitation. They were escorted not to a detention area as expected, but to a large chamber where representatives from multiple species had gathered. The Cataran who had supported them earlier stood at the center. "The humans have presented compelling evidence," the Cataran announced as they entered. "Multiple delegations have analyzed their data and found merit in their conclusions." "This is irregular," protested the Ardorian chairperson. "They accessed restricted systems, violated protocols, and potentially saved us from catastrophe," interrupted a Meribian representative. "We have independently verified their analysis. The void responds defensively to energy weapons, and the correlation with the Ardorian experiment cannot be dismissed." The chamber erupted in multilingual debate. Through it all, the humans stood together, watching as the galactic power structure they'd observed was suddenly disrupted by their actions. Finally, the Cataran raised a hand for silence. A vote is called. Recall the fleet and attempt the humans' communication approach. The tension was palpable as representatives cast their votes. The Ardorians and some of their closest allies voted against, but they were outnumbered. The motion passed. "The fleet stands down," the Cataran announced. "We will attempt communication." What followed was a frantic coordination of resources. Maya worked with scientists from a dozen species to design communication patterns based on mathematical sequences, universal language that might be recognized by any form of intelligence. Carlos, with his practical mechanical knowledge, helped engineer the transmission devices. "It's like tuning an engine," he explained to a confused Meribian scientist. "You don't force it. You find the sweet spot." Zoe's hacking skills proved invaluable in repurposing existing communication arrays, while Benjamin's military experience helped coordinate the logistical effort. 3 days later, they were ready. The void had slowed its expansion, but remained a looming threat. From a safe distance, the repurposed arrays began transmitting the carefully designed patterns, simple mathematical sequences followed by more complex ones. For hours, nothing changed. Doubt began to spread among the gathered representatives. It was worth trying. The Cateran told Maya sympathetically. If this fails, we must reconsider defensive options. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the void began to change. Its swirling darkness formed patterns that mimicked the transmitted sequences. "It's responding," Maya whispered, hardly daring to believe. Over the next 2 days, the communication grew more complex. The void not only mimicked their patterns, but began to send variations, engaging in a form of dialogue. Through this mathematical conversation, they began to understand. The void was indeed alive, a spatial entity dwelling between dimensions. The Ardorian experiment had injured it, and its expansion had been an immune response, an attempt to heal itself and protect against further harm. With this understanding came the possibility of resolution. The Ardorians, finally acknowledging their role, offered reparation. They would permanently restrict certain technologies in the affected region, creating a protected zone for the entity. In response, the void began to contract, withdrawing from the systems it had engulfed. While the research outpost was lost, the inhabited worlds were spared. 1 week after their unauthorized broadcast, the 4 humans stood before the full Confluence Assembly. The Ardorian chairperson, humbled by recent events, addressed them formally. "The Confluence acknowledges that humanity has rendered an unprecedented service. Your unconventional approaches, which we initially dismissed, proved essential to resolving this crisis." The Cateran stepped forward. "It is therefore decided. Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Confluence, effective immediately." Murmurs of approval spread through the assembly. Additionally, the Cateran continued, "The selection algorithm has been verified. It did not err in choosing you 4 as representatives. Your combination of theoretical insight, practical knowledge, technical ingenuity, and strategic thinking accomplished what our most advanced civilizations could not." As they accepted the formal recognition, Maya looked at her unlikely companions, a motorcycle mechanic, a hacker, and a retired military officer. Together, they had changed humanity's place in the galaxy. "Not bad for Earth's underachievers," Zoe whispered, grinning. "Perhaps," Benjamin replied thoughtfully. "It's precisely because we were underestimated that we succeeded. Sometimes, the greatest advantage is being underestimated." When they returned to Earth months later, they arrived not as they had left, 4 strangers with questionable credentials, but as the architects of humanity's acceptance into a greater galactic community. And in the vast darkness between stars, the being they had come to call the Void Entity continued its existence, now in peaceful coexistence with the civilizations that had nearly destroyed it, a monument to the power of communication over conflict and to the unexpected wisdom that can come from the most unlikely sources. Sometimes, Maya reflected as they watched Earth grow larger in their viewport, it takes outsiders to see what the insiders have missed. Carlos nodded, wiping engine grease from his hands, a habit he hadn't lost despite his newfound galactic importance. And sometimes, the people who don't fit in are exactly the ones you need. To Earth's misfits, Zoe proposed an imaginary toast. To humanity, Benjamin corrected with a smile. Underestimated no more.